Okay. Oh, how do I start these things? Every time. I forget.
Hello and welcome to Across the Pond. My name is Kat, and my name is also QJ, and we watch movies. And we have the same voice because we are the same person because I have no friends.
I was going to see how long you could keep that up. Okay, hi. Welcome to Kat's Monthly Movies. That was QJ. My name is Kat. I watched a bunch of movies this month.
She's my friend because she's a loser.
We're friends, I guess, but I don't really know why, because, you know, I don't know. What have you done for me recently? Not much.
Not much.
Not really anything, have you?
No.
It's kind of been annoying, made me a day late on this episode.
I know, that's it. Yeah, I did that.
Very upsetting. Anyway, so I watch a bunch of movies every month, and then I talk about them on this podcast. It's like general, you know, standard fare for this podcast. I'm gonna just start... Oh, it's pretty much all horror this month. It's mostly horror movies.
Happy Halloween!
I guess Happy Halloween. I don't really care about Halloween, though. It's kind of a trash
Halloween's
holiday, but that's fine.
amazing!
No, it's trash. Anyway, so the first movie I watched was a movie called Flatliners, which has Ellen Page in it, and I really thought that it was... It thinks that it's way smarter than it actually is, when really it's just like this really generic... it has a good concept, right? The concept of the film is a bunch of like medical students start like medically killing themselves, but then bringing themselves back with the medical, like the heart boops. You know, the thing where they do the clear and then they boop.
The defibrillator, yeah.
Yeah, defibrillators, yeah. So they kill each other and then they see how long they can be dead for before pulling each other back. It's all very dramatic.
Oh, I think it's like 8 minutes, isn't it?
What? Oh, I don't know.
I guess you didn't find out.
And then, but basically, doing that causes them to have spooky ghosts, hallucinations that chase them around, and it's very scary.
Interesting, because I feel like I would watch a movie about just college like med students being idiots and like trying to kill themselves and bring themselves back to life, because it's like the med student version of seeing how drunk you can get before you overdose.
Yeah, basically it kind of starts off with that, and it's kind of like, oh, at first it's this really interesting concept, but then it kind of just becomes something they regret from their past is haunting them.
Oh, no.
They're having weird hallucinations, but also doing it makes them like super smart for some reason. They become more intelligent because it unlocks parts of their brains that they previously locked off or something. Like,
so it's like creating sci-fi magic that doesn't need to be explained.
I know, it's so stupid. But it thought it was really smart, but it was actually really generic and just... It comes across as really smug. Like, the writers thought, like, haha, this will be really clever as a plot hook, but it's just not. It's just like, oh yeah, this guy regrets this thing, and then it haunts him, and it's just kind of jump scares and not actually scary at all. And it has, like, one really good scene where one of the girls, like, her sister dies, and it's actually really well done. Like, really well done as a scene. But apart from that, it's just kind of not very good. So I don't really care enough to talk about it that much. People were like, oh, Ellen Page is in it, the trailer looks really good. And then it actually wasn't very good, and I don't actually think it did very well in the cinemas anyway, so who cares? The next movie I watched...
Pause.
Pause.
Pause for a second. This friggin' fan is running in the other room, and it's being picked up on the mic, so...
Oh,
let me see if I can turn this off.
Okay, I'm just going to fill time here. QJ has just gone to turn off a fan. Apologies if there was an annoying fan noise for the first...
You know, we don't have any fans anyway.
Oh, self-burn. Oh, I peaked my audio right there. Okay, so I'm just talking to myself right now. I don't know how much of this I'm actually going to cut. I'm quite lazy at the moment in editing because like no one actually listens to this, so here we go. All right.
Okay, it looks like that's not picking up anymore.
It's amazing that she tested her mic twice but didn't realize that was going to be a thing. Like, that's pretty good. I don't know if I'll cut all of that, or if I'll just cut some of it, or if I'll just leave it all in. Who knows? I probably will cut a lot of it because you dropped your mic and it's just horrible. Anyway,
did that just for you?
The next movie I watched was a film called Goodbye Christopher Robin, which is not horror, but it's actually really good. It's a film about... It's a biopic about a Milne, I think his name is.
Yes.
The guy who wrote the Winnie the Pooh movies. No, the Winnie the Pooh books. and about how he ruins his child's childhood by writing books about him and then making him do loads of like press tours and like making this kid's like basically the kid has all these like imagination stories and all that stuff like kids do, and that inspires the books, the Winnie the Pooh books. And the kid kind of hates it because it's like, oh, but it was supposed to just be like our thing that we did when we played, and now everyone
Yeah.
knows about it. Why? And it ruins this kid's childhood. It's really depressing. Like, it's just like the story of a guy being a bad father, and then he looks like he's going to be a good father, and then he just squanders it by being like by selling it and just completely selling out, and it's really trash. And then the moment when he realizes his mistake is just like it's too late. It's too late now. Oh,
Wow.
it's really sad. It's a really well done film actually. It's a bit over dramatic at times, but
As biopics
it,
tend to be.
yeah, but it works, and it had me tearing up, and it was genuinely like a really solid film. Like I enjoyed it a lot. It has some good moments. This is like early month stuff though, so I've totally forgotten most of it. I just remember it was good. I just remember enjoying it and having a bit of a cry.
Oh.
And thinking
Do
to
you even
myself,
like
"Wow,
Winnie
that
the
was sad."
Pooh?
I did when I was like in its target audience. I don't now.
I actually hadn't seen like any of the Winnie the Pooh movies until I was like 16 and I started babysitting my little brother. So I watched all of his movies and then I liked them way more than he did.
Oh, the Tigger movie. I remember when I was a kid was like
Oh,
a classic. I
yeah.
haven't seen it since I was like maybe like
I remember the
6.
Tigger
But, like
movie.
the Tigger movie bit, I remember being absolutely lit. Like, um,
Definitely.
but then I went to see. Okay, this is gonna be a huge rant. I'm pretty mad about this one.
Okay, here we
So
go.
you know how the Lego Movie, and you can disagree if you want. I feel like you disagree with this. The Lego Movie is an absolutely excellent film that's incredibly well crafted and has a great story and has a lot of heart and brilliant characters. I feel like you don't like the Lego Movie. Is
What?
that
No, you're like thinking of someone else. I loved the
okay?
Lego movie. It was
I'm thinking of
fantastic.
someone else. Okay, the Lego Movie is amazing, right? The
You guys
Lego
should have
Movie is
seen the
absolutely
look I was
fantastic.
giving Kat just now. I'm like, are you crazy?
I
No.
don't know. I don't know who I'm thinking of then. Anyway, the Lego Movie is an incredibly well-made movie. It's beautiful. It's well written. There's clearly thought has been put into every single frame of it. It's beautiful. The Lego Batman movie is exactly the same. There's a huge amount of
Hmm.
thought. It's one of the funniest films I've ever seen in my life. I thought to
Best
myself,
Batman movie.
oh hey, Lego they can't let me down now. They can't fail me. They'd never make a bad movie, and then they did.
Oh no.
The Lego Ninjago movie is quite possibly one of the most uninspired, dull, generic, unfunny, like charmless. It has just no personality at all. None of the
Now,
characters have
what's
any.
it called? Lego Ninjago?
Ninjago.
Ninjago. And is it supposed to be about a ninja with a
Yeah.
doggo?
That was you're bad.
I don't know what else ends with go.
Ninjago was like a Lego. It's like Bionicle, right? Do you know about Bionicle?
Oh, that sounds so familiar.
Basically, Lego did like separate, like this is special Lego. You know, like they did Lego City, they did Ninjago, which is the ninja sets. They did Bionicle, which were like the weird mech things. Basically, they did all these different like sub brands of Lego for a while. I don't know if they were popular because I was too old for Lego at that point, but who knows? And they made a movie out of the Ninjago one, but it's not good. It's just like there's a city and it's like the most generic like, hey, we're trying to parody like Power Rangers type like, we're teenagers who also have ninjas mech suits and stuff. But instead of being a cool parody of it like the Lego Batman movie was, it's just like the most boring. Like, when something tries to parody something, but it's not funny enough to be a parody, so it's basically just doing the same thing that the thing it's trying to
The
parody
exact
is.
same thing, yeah.
Yeah, like One Punch Man is, in my opinion, or I can't think of any examples. Like, I would argue that the late like Shrek 3 is kind of like that. Like it wants to be a fantasy parody, but it's just not. It's just doing the thing. Because it's not funny enough to not be. Um,
Right.
so that's what this is. It's like they're trying to parody things like the kind of Power Rangers, like we're just teenagers, but actually we're ninjas and we fight evil villains the whole time. But it just is that, and it's just like really generic and boring, and there's no real good. Like there's a few good jokes in there, but they're not good enough to carry. Like how the Lego Batman movie. just every single joke was funny.
Yeah.
I was laughing out loud for the whole thing. Every line of dialogue was excellent and made me laugh.
I mean, if you have a
In
team
this,
of people like constantly writing jokes, the law
Yep.
of chance says a couple of them are going to land, but that doesn't. I mean, that's how I felt about the My Little Pony movie. Really, like
Yeah.
they made like a Pretty Woman joke and like quoted a couple of other adult movies in there, and I was like, huh,
Yeah.
they put that in there. Okay,
Yeah. The Emoji Movie
Moving
did
on
the
to
same
the
thing. The Emoji Movie had like
bad
2 good jokes.
story.
Yeah. But this one, it's just like, I don't know. It has no character or charm. Like, even speaking of the Emoji Movie, even the Emoji Movie, right? I knew what these characters were. I knew what they wanted. They had like aspirations and dreams. The main protagonists of this movie, of the Lego Ninjago movie, are just like, I don't know. They're just flat. They're like 2-dimensional. They don't feel like people. They just feel like, who cares? Who cares about Lloyd the Green Ninja who wants to defend the city, but also his dad is evil? Oh no. It's just so
Sounds really boring.
It's like the writers just were like, who cares? They just phoned it in because they didn't.
Was it even like actiony enough for children to like?
Well, it was. It had all the kind of like the classic Lego action, but like I've seen that kind of thing visually done better in the Lego movie and the Lego Batman movie. So visually it was just like, hey look, there's flashy things happening on screen. Cool, I guess.
Yay.
Like, flashy things happening on screen isn't enough. Like, the Emoji Movie had flashy things happening on screen. It's not enough!
Yeah, and so did like the first Lego movie.
But
like,
the first Lego movie had intense amounts of charm and good characters.
Yeah, like you can have flashy things on the screen, but like you're saying, it's not enough.
It's not enough. You can't carry a film based on like, hey, look at the pretty colors. It's no. It doesn't work like that. So that really annoyed me. I was really salty about it for like, it's just charmless. They're
making children stupider.
Yeah, like, and normally I'd be like, oh, people are always like, it's just a dumb movie for kids. Give it a chance. But when there are so many high quality movies for kids that actually have good morals to them and good and genuinely good writing, I can't justify it. I can't be like, I can't have that mindset because I know that kids wouldn't enjoy this as much as the Lego movie, as much as the Lego Batman movie. It's the same thing when I was talking about the Emoji Movie a couple of months ago or whatever. It's the thing I was saying there. Like, the kids in the like cinema with me while I was watching the Emoji Movie were not laughing at all because it wasn't funny, even to them, even in their brains. This was trash. So yeah, it would probably entertain children under the age of 10 because it's flashy and colorful. It's like a distraction film.
At least long enough for their parents to get them out of the house for 2 hours.
Yeah. But I don't think that's justifiable of making it a good children's movie. I think children's movies should be held to not the same standards as movies for adults, because obviously it's a different type, like different style of storytelling. But they should same level of like, you have to meet these criteria. You have to achieve what you are setting out to achieve. The Lego movie intended to achieve comedy and it failed just on so many levels. It attempted to have characters and it failed. The only character that's interesting is the like antagonist, who is voiced by someone, I don't know who voiced him, but that person has enough charm to carry that character. And he's just like wacky and outlandish to the point where it's funny. The rest of the ninja characters, there's like 5 of them, and they're just all so generic. I couldn't tell you anything. One of them was, he's scared of things. That was his personality. One of them was a girl, but she's not a traditional girl. She's more badass, which is just like, what is this, 2003, when it's like revolutionary to have a girl who's a badass in your film. It isn't anymore. Nowadays, you need to do more than that. That can't be your entire character. It hurt my brain. Anyway.
And of course, she was the only girl, right?
Oh, yeah, she was...
That was her character. She was the girl.
Yeah. Apart from Lloyd's mum, who, surprise, surprise, ends up having... She used to be a ninja warrior, but she gave it up to look after her son.
Woo!
Oh, what a twist. Who cares? It's just bad. It's just really bad.
But I do think, based on what you're saying, like, in its own way, kids' movies should be held up to the same standards as adult movies. Because it's like, even though it's like the same kind of standard, it like doesn't mean the movie's like made in the same way, because you have to
Yeah, well, I mean, it doesn't,
You have to
like, they
appeal
don't
to a
need to
different
have,
type of audience, and
yeah,
it it's the same standards but in a different manner.
yeah,
I
it's
still
kind
think
of the
it should
same,
be
yeah,
a good movie, well made.
yeah, it's kind of the same way that, like, we hold films like Manchester by the Sea and Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, not the second one, are both, I would argue, almost perfect films, but for completely different reasons. It's
Yeah,
whether or not the film,
absolutely.
with any form of like entertainment, it's whether or not it achieves what it sets out to achieve. And ultimately, a kids movie aims to entertain people and then aims to be fun, but also tell a story. And if the story is garbage, then it doesn't matter if it's like, basically, like, the three pillars that the Lego Ninjago movie was trying to achieve was telling a story, being funny, and being like flashy and colorful and like having action. It achieved one of those three things, and therefore it failed.
Yeah.
Like, that's the standard I have to hold it to. In the same way, Manchester by the Sea aimed to be emotional, tell a good story, and have a lot of character depth, and it achieved all three. Guardians of the Galaxy aimed to be funny, heartfelt, and have good action, and it achieved all three. You know?
Yeah.
Like, it's what the movie itself aims to achieve. If a movie isn't going for a good story, it doesn't matter if it doesn't. Like Monty Python and the Holy Grail, for example, first thing that comes to mind. That story by itself is garbage, but it doesn't
And yet
matter
it's like one of the best movies ever made.
Yeah, it doesn't matter because it's not going for a good story. It's essentially just a series of sketches, and that is fine. On this topic, the Saw franchise aims to be
Here we go.
a fun mystery that has a good reveal at the end, gory, and that's about it. And guess what?
And
All
thrilling.
of them achieved that apart from the new one. So I'm gonna begin by talking about Saw 2 to 7. I don't feel like we need to talk about Saw 1 because Saw 1 is like a legitimately good, like, it's
Yeah.
not up for debate whether or not Saw 1 is a good film. Saw 1 is a good film. People just know that. I don't feel like we need to go over that again.
I mean, a
The
lot
other-
of people who
yeah.
probably haven't seen it just think that it's torture porn and it has no story, but it's definitely wrong. You got
Yeah.
your gore in there, but it's
Yeah.
for the purpose of
Yeah.
not being like, ooh, that was bloody, but like it's there to really make you uncomfortable because
Yeah.
they want you to feel what the characters are feeling.
Yep.
And then at the end, you're like, holy crap, that just happened, and now I'm
Yeah.
horrified for everything. And
You know what?
Yeah.
You just summed up
what?
just about every other movie in the Saw franchise.
Just with different puzzles, right?
Pretty much. The first one is very much more low key than the others, but
But
they
I mean, how do
all
you
have,
make a new plot twist for not
Yeah.
or like ending twists for 7 movies without
No,
predicting them?
actually, a lot of them I did not see coming. Okay, I'm just gonna say right now, spoilers for the entire Saw franchise. Right now, there'll be a spoiler warning. To be honest, stop watching the rest of this episode is gonna be me talking about the rest of the Saw franchise, and then like a little bit of me talking about Thor Ragnarok, but it's not out in the US yet, so I can't actually talk much about it because QJ
No.
hasn't. It's not like she hasn't seen it because she couldn't be bothered. She can't have seen it yet, so I can't. So basically,
Yeah.
if you don't want the Saw franchise spoil for you, stop listening. As if anyone was listening in the first place. Am I right? Anyway, so the other ones, actually, almost all of them have legitimately good twists. At the end, it's like not quite. Actually, no. Some of them are better than the. It turned out Jigsaw was in the room at the end of Saw 1, right? Saw 2. Basically, it's okay. I'm gonna run through each one. I'm gonna tell you what the twist is because they're all, I think,
Yeah, I
actually
want
quite
to
good.
hear all
You
the
can
twists.
you can tell me whether or not they're. I'm just gonna sum up each plot basically. Saw 2, starts with there's basically this cop and a group of other cops find Jigsaw, right? They find him and they're like, "Oh, we've got you." Like, he's just there and he's just sitting at a table, like, "Hey, what up? I'm Jigsaw. How's it going?" Which in itself is like, "Oh, I didn't think this was gonna happen." And then Jigsaw is like, "Okay, I've got a bunch of these TVs. In this house on the TV that's being streamed is the main cop's son and a bunch of people, and they're in a saw trap, right?" And the guy, Jigsaw, basically says to this guy, "Okay, if you can have a conversation with me, if you can just speak to me rationally for enough time, you will find your son in a safe condition." And you think like Jigsaw's just like full of crap. He's just like talking out of his ass. He's trying to talk himself out. The twist at the end is that all of the trap stuff, all of the all of the stuff that has been streamed to the cops wasn't live. That happened like 2 days ago or something. The guy's
Oh.
son, the guy's son was in the room with them at the time, and if the guy had talked to Jigsaw for long enough, hadn't like forced him to like leave and go, because he basically forces him to take him to the house that the trap's happening. Um, but it turns out the trap is no longer happening. The guy just is then walks into his own trap. And the guy's son was just in the room the whole time in a safe, and that's the twist. And I like
Does
that
he
blew
like
my mind. I was
suffocate?
like, no, he was being kept alive. Like
Oh.
he was fine. He was absolutely fine.
So like
If
no one
it-
was ever in any danger, but the cop just like
Oh,
walked himself into a.
the guy's son was never in danger. The other people in the house, it was a proper saw trap, but the guy's son was never in danger because he'd
Hmm.
already got out of his trap, kind of thing. But yeah, it's good. There's a little bit of like over the top, unnecessary like trappage in Saw 2, but it doesn't make the movie worse. I actually, because I was expecting basically when I went into this whole, because I wanted to watch the entire franchise just out of curiosity, like morbid curiosity, and I came out of Saw 2 like, oh, that was like, it wasn't amazing, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't bad. It was like a decent movie that had like you know how in Saw 1 like the people are being tested based on things that they've done in their lives and
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's all about this guy and how this cop has like put people away unnecessarily and how he's treated people unfairly, and it's testing him based on like his life, and it's actually
Ah.
quite cleverly written, right? Saw 3 is, I think, even better. Saw 3 is basically Jigsaw is dying, as we know from Saw 1. He's like, so it starts with him dying. One of his accomplices brings in this doctor, puts the thing around her neck where basically if Jigsaw's heart rate stops, her collar explodes and she dies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And basically he's like, keep me alive until the end of this test that I'm pulling on this guy. And she, throughout the movie, you see her having to do that, like medical stuff. And at the same time, there's this guy being tested because his son got hit in a hit and run accident, and he's been like consumed by vengeance. And Jigsaw's basically given him the chance to like get the vengeance, but trying to teach him that like he shouldn't need it. He should, be forgiving and stuff like that. And the twist at the end is the guy gets to Jigsaw, and Jigsaw puts his own life as part of the test. He just sits there and goes, if you haven't learned anything, kill me. You can kill me for what I did to you, that's fine. But if you've learned nothing, then do that. And if you have learned something, just walk away right now. And he just sits there like, kill me if you need to. But it will have terrible consequences on you and your family. At the same time, we find out that the woman that has the collar around her neck, and will die if Jigsaw dies, is this guy's wife. So if he kills
Oh.
Jigsaw, his wife's head explodes. And you didn't know that. The moment he walks in, it's like, oh, it's just this like epic, like, oh no, everything's come together. It all makes sense now. It makes sense why this is happening. And then he does kill Jigsaw, and then
His wife explodes.
his wife's head explodes, and it's like real sad.
Oh my gosh.
But that's a good twist, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a good. You get to the end of the film, and you're like, oh, this all makes sense. It all comes together. Saw 4, not as good. I don't really want to talk about Saw 4 as much. Saw 4 was like kind of sloppy. Basically, the twist at the end of Saw 4 is that it happened at exactly the same at the exact same time as Saw 3. Because during Saw 3, we don't see what the police are doing at any point, which is like normally you do. And Saw 4 is what were the police doing while Saw 3 was happening. So at the same time Saw 3 was happening, there's this like elaborate trap that involves like this specific police officer being like taken into. It's a bit convoluted, and Saw 4, to be honest, is probably my least favorite of them because
It sounds
it's
like
just
Saw
a
3 and a
bit-
half. Like it doesn't sound
Yeah.
like its own movie.
No, it's weird because it feels like its own movie, and you don't realize that it's happening at the same time. So the whole movie, you're a bit confused. You're like, wait, where's Jigsaw in all this? What's happening? And then at the end, you're like, oh, which is pretty good. Saw 5. Oh, I don't actually remember what happened in Saw 5.
Oh.
Saw 5, I think, was the one they're trying to chase down the accomplice of Jigsaw. Oh, actually, I think Saw 5 was the one where there's this test where there's like 5 people, 5 or 6, I think it might have been, people in this trap. This is like one of my favorite like sets of traps where basically in each room, one of them dies and gets sacrificed for the trap by the others. And the final room is like a big jar where they have to fill a thing with 10 pints of blood. But the human body contains 10 pints of blood.
Yeah.
So basically, if they'd all rationally thought and worked together and all got to the end of this, they'd pretty much be fine. They wouldn't have to risk that much, like, to get out of the final room. They'd all have to put in 2 pints of blood, which, you know, is bad, but it's not like the worst. But there's only two of them left, and at the end of that trap, they're just sitting there like, oh no, oh no, we messed up. We could have all got through this, and now we've each got to give 5 pints of blood.
Wait, how? I might have missed something you said. Do they like kill each other? And so
yeah, basically, like there's a series of like 5 rooms, and in each room they kill someone off, because they think that they have to as part of the trap, but then and in the final room they realize, oh no, we never had to kill other people off. We could have all survived this, and then we could have all done this blood thing really easily if we just worked together. If we just
could they have done the blood thing like at the very beginning without going through those? Like,
no, it had to go sequentially. Like it was like they had to do something to unlock a door to get to the next room, like a video game dungeon, basically. That's how Jigsaw designs things. Yeah, and then I can't remember when it is. There's one really good trap that was really suspenseful actually, where like two people are either side of this glass, and in the middle of them there's like this set of scales with a tube going to it, and Jigsaw basically says, "You guys have both got like I think it's either a hacksaw or like an axe or something." And both of them, he tells, the more flesh you put on the scales, whoever puts the most flesh on their side of the scales doesn't die when the timer goes off. So like the one guy on the other side is like cutting chunks off of his stomach and like flopping it onto the scales.
Ew.
The woman is just like hacking her arm off. It gets really close to the timer going before she gets the arm off. And the guy's just standing there like, yes, I've won. I've got all of this on the thing. I can live. And she just dunks her whole arm in. Oh, it's so good. But it's so tense to watch because you're just sitting there like, oh, is she going to do it in time? Yeah, it's gross. It's gross, but it's like, I don't know, it's all done in this grungy way where you don't actually see a huge amount of I mean, you see blood. I'm not going to say you don't, but like, it's not like, it never feels to me too excessive or like they're just doing it for the sake of shock. They're always doing it because it's to do with the game and it's to do with how Jigsaw's testing people. And they're usually pretty good about it. There are some traps where you're like, this is a bit unnecessary, and this is clearly because, you know, gore sold during like the early 2000s, like that was the big hype trend for Halloween movies or whatever. But all in all, it usually feels pretty necessary to the plot because I don't know, it's like the gimmick of the Saw franchise is there's this big mystery. Also, this guy does death traps in order to like test people's will to live and stuff,
right?
And like test their rationale and like see how far he can push the human being.
Yeah, that's what I like about it.
Yeah, and it always makes sense within the context of that. So it never feels too unnecessary. You know what I mean?
Wait, who's Jigsaw this time?
Oh, Jigsaw. Oh yeah, I forgot. Jigsaw died. So his apprentice is like keeping it going.
Oh.
Basically he has this guy who's also a cop is trying to like be a cop and also be Jigsaw. And like keep his legacy going. Which is really good in Saw 6, which I think is one of my favorite ones. Obviously, it's not as good as Saw 1.
Wait, what happened at the end of Saw 5? Like,
I do not remember.
Okay. I assume they both died of blood loss.
I think they actually do. You never hear from those people again, so I think yeah. That wasn't even the main thing. The main thing was like the apprentice dodging this. Oh yeah, basically there's this the whole tension in Saw 5, if I recall correctly, was the guy who the FBI have been called, and the FBI are trying to investigate the guy who has taken over from Jigsaw, and the whole thing is the guy who's taken over from Jigsaw trying to frame the FBI guy for being Jigsaw, for doing what he's been doing, and in the end it's like, oh, he did it worked, but then Saw 6 comes around. Saw 6 is legitimately good. The whole test is the test of this insurance guy. Who basically he chooses who gets health insurance and who doesn't. So he's like, whoever he decides gets to live or die does. And he
Mm-hmm.
rejected Jigsaw's like attempts to get insurance for his cancer when he was dying. So Jigsaw's like, nah, going in a trap. And the whole thing is about how this guy has to choose who lives and who dies, and has to like, it's all a test of like his own personal what he's been doing in his like insurance career. You know,
Yeah.
Jigsaw's basically just like, hey, you're used to choosing who lives and dies, so it won't be too horrible for you if you have to do it while they're
Woo.
right in front of you.
Yeah.
Like, and you have to watch it happen, and he's just like gets slowly broken down. And it's also really good because basically Jigsaw has these two like a family, like a mother and a child in a cage, and then this reporter character who's been vaguely relevant throughout a lot of the plot in another cage. And the whole time he's been saying like to the insurance guy, if you don't get through these tests, your family will die. And when he gets to there, you think that the mother and the child are his family, and the reporter woman is just there because you don't really know why, just because she's been trying to track down Jigsaw.
Mm-hmm.
He gets into the room. Turns out, no, not at all. The reporter woman was his sister, and the
Uh-huh.
mother and child were a family who basically her husband was denied insurance by this guy, and you kind of saw that happen earlier on in the film, and you saw him decline another guy as just a flashback to show what this guy's been doing, and it's like, oh, that was this woman's husband. This woman now gets to choose whether or not the insurance guy lives or dies. Um,
Huh.
it's like you're sitting there like, oh, that was the twist. And each of them, they're good twists. I like legitimately enjoy them. But in Saw 6, there's a really good scene where they've got a tape. Like, you know how Jigsaw always does the, like, you want to play a game tapes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got a tape of the Saw, like, the accomplice guy doing the message. And they all think that he's innocent. They don't think it's him, right? And the FBI are, like, decoding it in order to find out if the guy that he'd framed actually was Jigsaw. And he's in the room with them, so it's like him, like two people in the FBI and like this woman who's like the tech woman decoding it. And as they have a conversation, and in the background, the tape is being decoded, and you know it's his voice. So as it's being decoded, basically it's repeating the same line over and over again, just like slowly being like going from the grisly like Jigsaw filter, and then just slowly being taken down and down and down and down, back to his voice in the background of the scene. And the line that's being repeated is, "You're beginning to feel helpless now." That's being repeated, and this guy is sweating because he knows that the moment this tape's decoded, he's like outed, and he's gonna have to do something about it. And it's absolutely genius as a scene. The tension building in that scene is fantastic, and not something I was ever expecting to see in Saw 6. You know,
Yeah, like this
like
sounds like more of a successful franchise than I expected it to be.
I know, it's weird. I was not like I really enjoyed them, and I watched all of these over the course of like 2 days, which I was not expecting to want to do. I thought I'd watch like two of them and go, I'm good, and then just stop. But like I was really interested at this point. I was like invested in the story and the mystery, and knowing if this guy's gonna get caught.
It's just like a
And when
mini
that
series with really long episodes.
it pretty much is.
Because I feel like normally when people make movies, if they like have a new idea for like a story but it goes
Yeah,
along the same lines, people are just like, "Oh, this movie's just a ripoff of well, that other movie." But you can't really do that if it's a sequel because
yeah,
it's technically like it doesn't
yeah.
have to be anything but a ripoff. It's just
one of
a
the
repeat.
one of the things I think is really cool about Saw 2 through to 7 is that it is one. It basically each film has its own story of the person in the traps who's being tested, but throughout 2 till 7, it's all one long continuous story, like B plot story of who Jigsaw is and the cops trying to find him, and all of these different cops getting like tangled up in the traps and all that stuff. So it is like one long film, but like each film is satisfying to watch in itself because of the like main plot of the traps, but the B plot that is the thread throughout the whole thing kind of ties them all together really nicely.
Hmm.
I think I can see people complaining that like there are so many flashbacks, and like sometimes it almost feels like they're giving too much depth into the original Jigsaw John Kramer. Like through to like Saw 7, there's flashbacks to him still being when he was still alive. Like he dies in Saw at the end of Saw 3, but he's still around for, like every single film. Like he's still in all of them, just through flashbacks, and it's still like, but it's all delving into like the psyche of this guy and like what made him do it and why, you know, how people are still doing it after he's dead and that sort of thing. And it's really, I think it's really cool. Saw 7 was the one they did in 3D, which concludes the whole story quite well, but because it was in 3D, it went a little bit too, like, gore heavy, I think. It went a bit too, like, there were just slightly too many traps all over the place, and it felt a little bit unnecessary at times. Though the plot line, I thought was really cool. Basically, there's this guy who's written a book about how he was a Jigsaw survivor, because, like, Jigsaw's big at this point. Like, everyone knows about him, like, the news of, like, glorified him and all this stuff. This guy wrote a book saying he was a Jigsaw survivor, but he wasn't. He just made it all up, and he was just milking it. And the whole... And Jigsaw gets him, puts him in a trap, and is just sitting there like, this will be familiar to you, right? Yeah? You've done this before? And it's so good. And like all of his publicity team are like also in the traps and stuff like that. And there's one... This one had one of my favorite traps, and it was one that personally affected me because I'm also quite loud. Basically, it was... The guy had his publicist was strapped to a chair with a string going down her throat, and on the end of the string is a fish hook and a key.
Oh.
Oh
god.
And around her are these like long poles that are slowly pushing towards her neck to kill her. And basically, Jigsaw says, "Oh, she's chosen to speak all of your lies for you, so If the decibel level in this room goes above a certain level, the spikes go faster and will kill her before you get the hook out of her throat." So while they're like, after he says that, she starts being like screaming at him.
Oh,
they start going faster, and then he just has to like put his hand over her mouth and be like, "Shut up! I'm gonna pull this. Shut up!" And it's so tense because you're just watching him pull this fish hook out of her mouth and watching her try not to scream the whole time. It's so good.
So stupid, lady.
It's great.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
It's some of the traps I think are really well thought out. Like with regards to theming, I really like them. I don't really want to go into huge depth in just explaining what the traps are because I think that, you know, you can watch them on YouTube. You'll be alright.
Yeah.
But like, I think genuinely, the Saw franchise did a good job of being pretty solid. No, they're not good. They're not amazing films. I'm not going to say they're like top 10 best films ever, but I actually really enjoyed them as a franchise way more than I thought I would. I thought they were just going to be...
I mean, I think I'd rather watch Saw movies than play those like 999 games that Shay loves that are just like, you know, scary, and then you have to play someone's game and figure out their puzzle. And I would rather just watch the puzzle, I think.
Yeah.
I feel like you could make a bunch of like gory Professor Layton games with the Saw series.
Oh, if Professor Layton crossed over with Saw and he was in charge of it, it'd be way too complicated. No, yeah, I think genuinely it's got a decent story and it's interesting throughout, and I enjoyed it enough, and it had a lot of twists and like things you didn't see coming. And the other thing with it is it has this very unique... I want to say, I don't watch many horror movies, so maybe lots of them do this, but it feels very unique in its style. Like, it has a very specific... Sure. You look at a shot and you're like, that is Saw. You know, everything's very grungy, everything's very... You know, and all of the traps are in, like, these industrial... Yeah, industrial warehouses with, like, rusty pipes everywhere, and, like, it just has this look to it. And the way it's shot, the way it's directed, like, they do this thing where... if someone's in a trap, in order to show how stressed and tense it is, they'll like quickly cut, and the camera will be like moving around them in circles, and they'll cut from
I know exactly
shot to
shot.
You know that from Saw 1. That keeps going throughout the whole thing, and it's very kind of... It's very much like the flavor of this franchise, and it's unique. I want to say it's unique. Maybe other horror movies do it. I don't know, but
but it's a really good way to express like how characters are feeling. Like they really make you feel exactly how the characters do.
Yeah, and it does a very good job of that, and it just feels like it has its own kind of style throughout the entire 7 films. And even though the first one kind of feels a little bit disjointed, because they clearly made that as a separate thing and then weren't considering a long story after that. But 2 till 7 all feel like one consistent story, and it's, I think, quite good. Like, not
Like
amazing.
one long
I'm not,
sequel, I
but
suppose.
I enjoyed them as a franchise to watch. Then the new one came along, Jigsaw, and
It
it was
was
just
bad because it didn't have a number, and it didn't follow the pattern of the titles.
You know how I just described all of the like unique things that the Saw franchise has?
Yeah.
It just didn't really have any. It didn't it was way more light in its visuals. The traps were nowhere near as like gory, which, you know, I just felt like if you're gonna make a Saw movie, why step down, you know?
Yeah.
Why go down to like to make it less edgy? The whole point is that it's edgy. You can't lose the grit of the Saw franchise. It's trash. And it almost feels off-brand because they never do that camera thing where they like move around the person like they do in all the other ones. They never do that technique. They never. It just feels kind of off-brand, like someone who didn't quite get what made the Saw franchise interesting and cohesive, like stylistically. They just got them to make it and design. Like the production design just feels off, and it just feels like it's ugh. And the argument you could have for that, if you'd seen the trailers and you hadn't actually seen the film, you could argue that that was because because it's 10 years later and everyone thinks it's a Jigsaw imitator. But it turns out, here's a spoiler for the new one. Maybe I'll separately spoiler warning that. It turns out that the traps actually were 10 years ago, and was during the time that Jigsaw was active. So, um, the off-brand feeling really doesn't make any sense because it should feel like something that John Kramer Jigsaw created because he did and he's in the movie. And they try and do this twist where they're like, maybe John Kramer's alive. And it's actually, I almost fell for it for a minute. I almost thought like, what if he actually is? He didn't die somehow, even though we see him on screen die, and then we see his autopsy and dissection post-mortem. Maybe he isn't dead. But no, then it's like, actually, these scenes all took, like, half of the movie took place 10 years in the past, which I actually think was a pretty good twist that they pulled on us, but also not.
It seemed like kind of a cheap twist because they kind of did that already.
Yeah, they kind of did, but it was alright. It just felt like kind of lackluster and didn't have like the punch that the rest of them had. It also ends with a guy saying, "And now I'm going to be the new Jigsaw," basically. So get ready for a new one every year.
Oh, yay!
I bet that's what they're going. Because I'm pretty sure it's Lionsgate, and Lionsgate are all about having a franchise because they were trying to get video game movie. They were trying to get like Borderlands as their new franchise, but I think that fell through. They milked the Mockingjay, those I've forgotten what the franchise. Hunger Games, yeah, they milked those for a while. Like they really want a franchise they can just milk for years.
I think Lionsgate is doing the new like a mini series on that new fantasy series that's out.
Mm-hmm.
Rufus Rothskate.
I have no idea what that is. Yeah, they're all about trying to get like at the moment they're just grasping at straws, I think. So welcome to that being a thing forever, like new Saw movies every friggin' 5 minutes.
Hooray.
So that'll be fun. The next movie I watched, and the final movie that I'm going to talk about today, that I'm not going to spoil at all, but I just want to talk about how friggin' brilliant it is.
Yay!
Thor Ragnarok. Oh boy, it's amazing. So basically, the director Taika Waititi has said like a significant amount of that script was improvised. Like they had a script, and then he just is all about just like there's an interview where he basically says, "You don't have a script for life, do you? You don't. When you wake up in the morning, you don't look at the script and think, oh, I'm going to say that. That'd be boring. Why do we do it with movies?" And he's all about just like, oh, we'll just improvise it, and it's amazing.
So the whole movie's improvised?
Yeah, I don't think the whole thing is, like, a lot of it has a script, but he basically said, like, they'd film one version that was on script, and then afterwards, they'd do several other versions where he'd just throw lines at the actors and be like, right, try this one, though. And, like, the actors would be like, hey, wait, why don't I say this? And then they'd just try that. And there's, like, there's entire scenes where you can kind of tell that the two actors are just riffing off of each other, and it's entirely just a natural, fluid conversation, and it's amazing. Like, Chris Hemsworth gets some brilliant lines out, because he is comedically on point.
That's funny.
The director voices a character, a CGI character, and it's like one of the best characters in the MCU. I absolutely love that guy, and I hope he's just always around forever because he's hilarious. Yeah, it's a brilliant film. It's fantastic. It's slightly like the plot lacks a little bit of the oomph that, but then it's the same thing as like Guardians of the Galaxy, where the plot's a little bit like it's fun, it's good, but it's not like amazing. It doesn't have much depth to it, but like it doesn't matter at all, you know? Like Thor Ragnarok, it's not important.
Yeah,
The plot's,
it's the
framework.
goofier side of the comic book world rather than the grungy, deep, gritty, like serious kind.
Yeah,
Where
and it's so much fun.
they all go down to Earth and realize that the Avengers split up, and then they're like, "What happened? What did you do while I was gone?"
Pretty much. Well, actually, I don't think that's going to happen, but that's because I've seen the Infinity War footage that's come out. But it's the whole thing. Anyway, it's brilliant. Like Hulk is great in it. Like that's not a spoiler that Hulk's in it because that's in the trailers. But Hulk is amazing in this film. Basically, and this again isn't a spoiler because we see it in the trailer. He's aged because he's been Hulk for like ages, being on this alien planet. So Hulk has gone from being what essentially is a baby to now he's like a toddler. So he can talk, but he's not very good at it. And it's actually really cool because it's like the chronology of the Hulk is that he has basically grown a little bit mentally.
So when Banner transforms into the Hulk, under normal circumstances, he's like a baby monster, and that's why he's so out of control.
Yeah, pretty much. Like the whole concept. He was
just an angry thing.
Yeah, the whole concept basically is it's really cool. I think is that in previous times the Hulk hasn't been let out for it's like the sum time of like the total time that the Hulk has been let out is how long the Hulk has been alive, kind of thing. So that's how much time he's had to learn things, and therefore he's learned very little because the only time he's been let out is when he's needed to fight.
Has that always been the Hulk's story? Like
I don't know. I don't know if that's ever been the case in the comics, but this version of the Hulk, that's it, and it's really interesting because now he's like this dumb toddler, and it's great.
That's funny.
So now he can
that makes him much more interesting.
Yeah, it does. Honest. It makes him so cool.
Now, him being on this alien planet, is that like something that happened in like a Hulk movie that's not part of MCU? Is that why I don't know what's going on?
They basically they tell you what happened in Ragnarok. You know how in the end of Age of Ultron he was in the Quinjet and you didn't really find out what happened to him?
I guess.
He flew off into space basically. But basically Joss Whedon left that open because he was like, I don't know what they're going to do with the Hulk, so I'll just leave this open. They can do what they want with it. And this is what they did with it. Yeah, it's super good. It's amazing. I think it's a friggin' excellent film. It's very funny. Just there's some really good action. Like the opening action sequence. Ooh, it just looks so beautiful. It's so beautiful to look at. Every part of it, it's like so classic. And like there's another action sequence later on that's just like so beautifully Thor beating people down. Oh, it's amazing. I want to talk plot stuff, but I can't spoil it. I can't do it.
We'll talk soon.
But yeah, Jeff Goldblum's great in it. Everyone's so good in it. It's just brilliant as a film. You need to see it, and we'll probably talk about it in your episode, I guess, because that'll be mid-month. We can do that. So keep an eye on that for Thor Ragnarok checks. But that's about all I've got now. Thanks for listening to me talk about Saw for like half an hour.
That was much more interesting than I thought it was going to be.
Oh, cool. I'm glad. Like, I was worried it was going to be boring, but that is the episode title. It's totally going to be Saw and Thor.
I bet that doesn't rhyme in America.
How do you say Saw and Thor?
Saw and Thor. It's not Sore and Thor.
It's Saw and Thor though.
No. Saw and Thaw.
Oh boy. Yeah. It's just boy, Thor Ragnarok's so good. I've seen it. I've seen it twice already. I probably will have seen it 3 times by the time we talk about it properly. I will have like had certain lines. I already have certain lines of dialogue memorized, but I don't want to say them because I don't want to ruin the joke when you watch it.
Make one of the lines of dialogue the title, and then I'll have to guess where it is in the movie.
It's beautiful. Anyway, that is the episode for today.
That's Cat's Monthly Movies.
That's my monthly movies. Thanks for the Saw chats. It's been good. I'd recommend. I actually didn't spoil a huge amount of those, so if you were interested, you go and watch them. See what you think. Maybe you'll hate them. Maybe
maybe.
But you know, decent mysteries. I thought.
Good. I don't know. It's given me hope for them. That's for sure.
Yeah. Talk to you later, guys. Bye.
Thanks for listening.